All right. Hey there, hey everyone, welcome back to our Building with a Blonde Out show. And tonight's gonna be special because we have our good friend Zach from Vegas. So Zach, if you guys don't know him, he's a husband, a dad, a chef, restaurant owner, a foodie influencer, a personal brand. We're so honored to be here with Zach tonight because this guy's super busy. This guy is one of the most successful people that I know in Vegas. So with that said, there's Zach.
Welcome, Zach.
Damn, thank you. I appreciate that. That means a lot. Especially like I said earlier, coming from you guys means a lot. Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Thanks, man.
Yeah, of
Love you, bro.
course. Yeah,
Love
Crushing
you
it, man.
we're so happy we got to meet you because, like, what? It's been has it been almost 2 years?
What a year or so, right?
A year?
A
So
little
That
over a
we
year.
met you?
Yeah, a little over a year since that first
I
time you guys
mean,
came by to the restaurant.
just meeting you, you're such a humble person. You're just like I got to meet your almost wife to be, your fiance, and your
Well, yeah,
beautiful
babe. No, I'm just kidding.
baby. Like I still got to meet your baby, but you're just such a humble person. You're such a great husband, a great dad, and I just love everything that you're doing. You every time like you come across people, you're always trying to build people up, no matter what type of industry they're in. So like you're just a great influencer, and I really love that about you. So
Thank you. I
thank
really
you
appreciate
again
that.
for doing this with us.
Of course, that means a lot. Thank you so much.
yeah, and you hustle a lot too, bro.
Yeah.
Like you
It's
hustle really hard.
it's the grind, different. My work is obviously different than your guys's. I'm like, and it's all grind. You know what I mean? But I have to be at the restaurant. I sit there all the time and go, man, I wish I could figure out how to cook from home. I mean, maybe I
Oh,
should have been more of like a cooking influencer foodie and I could just cook at my house, But
maybe
it's
you
like
could do that in the
I
future.
could, it's still out there, but just a very different business model, and it's a lot of sacrifice, especially at the house, like I just watched the podcast with my buddy Giuliano from 303 in the Cut, which is a great guy. You guys should get on here as well. And, I told her, I was like, man, he inspired me. I need to be in my restaurant more. And she's like, well, there goes our quality time. And I'm like, oh, shit, it's like, damn, I try to have a good home work balance as much as possible. But, we physically have to be there.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
So for our audience, like, can you tell them where you were born, like how you were raised?
A little backstory of like how you got to this point, basically.
Yeah, so I'll make it super fast. So my name's Zach Tolen. I'm born and raised in Las Vegas, Nevada. My mom's from Oregon. My dad's from Philadelphia. How the hell they met and had me is a blessing because that's two completely opposite sides of the world, of the USA. And I'm super blessed to be, on this earth and just so happy that they both gave me life. Um, I grew up, not the best kid, getting in trouble, talking back. I always say I used to get, Philly ass whoopings from my dad, East Coast ass whoopings, which were well deserved. Back then, I didn't think so. But now that I'm like, man, definitely deserved those. And then, actually around the age of 15, I was actually failing school. And my mom is a teacher. And you know how embarrassing it is to have a teacher and her kid doesn't graduate high school. That's like one of the most embarrassing things. So she, got me a job to pay for summer school, and then,
Mm.
shortly after that, my dad had passed away.
Oh wow.
Just yeah, just from a lot of they were both my parents were musicians, professional musicians, and
Mm.
so my dad was he partied. He's been playing music in clubs and bars since he was 13. And it's kind of caught up to him. He tried to get healthy and back on his stuff. It was a little too late. And so that's how I got started. And then basically the job turned into just paying for summer school to now I'm the extra income in the household. And so that's how it all got started, pretty much.
Wow.
Oh wow, I'm so
So
sorry about
what?
your dad.
How old were you again? Like 15 or something?
I was 15 years old.
Wow. So you lost your dad at 15.
Yeah. And
Wow.
for me, when I was 15, right, I was, a freshman in high school or freshman or sophomore, I don't remember. But I was already hanging out with friends, going to parties and, one of those like, screw my parents. They don't know what they're talking about. So, when he passed away, yes, I was sad, but I was just like, whatever, right? My little brother, though, on the other hand, he's, he was 12 years old. So he's still like, daddy, mommy, so I felt more bad for him at the time because he had a different type of bond than I did.
Mm.
Wow.
Wow.
So I mean, he's your dad, obviously, so you guys lost a big amount of income too, right?
Yeah, as much as he could, he worked. It was definitely a second income. My mom was the breadwinner because she works in the school district and, had the
Mm.
great salary job and all that. But yeah, as soon as he left, and it was also more of the fact that my dad would play gigs at night. So he would go do shows at night. And so he was able to take care of us during the day, take us to school, pick us up, make sure we got
Mm.
food. And then, my mom would come home, and that's when my dad would go to work at nighttime.
Oh,
Mm.
So we also
Yeah.
lost that structure as well. I mean, my last, like 3 years of high school, I had to get rides to school, and find different ways to get home. Luckily, I was doing a lot of summer school and after school classes, so it kept me busy. And then my mom could pick me up because she got out around 3 or 4.
Yeah. So I'm assuming at that age you were forced to kind of work, right? Like work more.
Yeah, like I said,
Money?
it started as needing to pay for summer school, and then it actually turned into a necessity now.
Mm.
I wanted to get a cell phone. My mom was like, "Well, you gotta buy your cell phone and pay your phone bill." And then as well, I always make this joke because I'm like, I was the only 16-year-old kid paying for healthcare or health insurance, right? I'm going to school. My mom was super big on like, your health insurance. She still is to this day. Um, but I'm going to school like, hey, you guys gonna pay for your own health insurance? Everybody's like, dude, what are you talking about? Like, no, we didn't, our parents pay for that. And I'm like,
Yeah.
huh. I'm just sitting there like, huh, I thought every kid paid for it, right? And so, yeah, it turned into a necessity.
Oh wow.
Yeah. Wow.
Wow. That's crazy. I never knew that when that. Wow. I
That was
can't even.
rough.
It was
It's like
definitely,
you had to take on a whole bunch of responsibility at 15.
yeah, I had to grow up really fast. And, super, I always say like, I would give up everything that I have now to have him back, right? But at the same time, I feel like if that never happened, maybe I would never get to where I'm at because I never would have kind of maybe got my head on right, and being religious or spiritual, I'm dabble in all that, but I always say like he's my Jesus, he died and to give me a better life. Yes, I would take it back for sure and to have him, but at the same time, it's like, hey, thank you for the blessing. I'm super fortunate and blessed at the time that we had. I wish he was here because I know he'd be my right hand man for sure. But I know he's looking down on me. I pray to him every day, and I mean, just blessed at all the traits that he gave me. Right?
Definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh,
Wow.
wow. Wow.
But
Thanks for sharing that, Zach. That's crazy.
Yeah, of course.
yeah, I don't even know what to say. I'm on a shock a little bit.
No. That's a beautiful
The sadness
story.
in there. Let's pump it up. Let's pump it up.
That is, I definitely believe in all that he's definitely looking down on you guys, especially on the baby and your family and being there for you. And, so that's really like, wow. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's why now I try to, I try to eat healthy and I go to the gym and I don't smoke anymore. I only drink with my wife because, I just want to be there. I want to have longevity, at least 80, I want to live to 110. But I just at least want to make it to 80, At least I want to see grandkids and, that kind of stuff,
Crazy.
Yeah, it's crazy. You literally didn't have to learn those lessons you learned the lessons the hard way by losing him, but you didn't necessarily have to like do all those things in order to be like, oh, I don't want to do this to myself. Like most of us, like I know for us, like we had a drink until the point where we're like, oh, we shouldn't drink anymore or do drugs and do all that crazy stuff. And then be like, oh, wait, this isn't good for us. We shouldn't do that. But like you really had it you harder. Like,
well, and don't get me wrong, it wasn't like, once he passed, I'm like, oh, I'm never touching this again. No, I partied until 21. And it's funny I say that for anybody that's listening. I'm from Vegas. We party until we're 21. Some of us stop at 21 because
so everyone comes here when they're 21, but Vegas people
by
stop.
the time you're 21, you've drinking everything. You've got a fake ID. You've been to the hookah lounges, the clubs, like, unless you work in it or get caught,
That's good to know for our kids.
in that lifestyle. I'll tell you what, I've been and it sounds messed up, but I'll always be vulnerable. I've been blacked out drunk and you know,
Yes.
God forbid nobody's kid or anybody ever does this, but you know, like 19 years old, you know, like blacked out drunk, just to the point where, you know, those are the nights where I'm like, I'm never drinking again. And then, you know, the next weekend I'm drinking again. But yeah, by the time I turned 21, you know, I still would dabble, and we were going to bars instead of clubs, and you know, stuff like that. And of course I was a full-time hibachi chef, so we drink a lot of sake with the customers as well.
Oh, okay.
And but yeah, I started slowing down. So what I was trying to say was, you know, it wasn't like that happened and I'm like, oh, I'm never touching this again. No, I fully went in and enjoyed life, and you know, definitely kept going until I did have other pivotal moments.
Yeah.
Okay.
So what age were you like a hibachi chef?
Like, yeah, what age did you start working as a hibachi chef?
Or like in the restaurant industry?
Yeah, so I started washing dishes at 15, and then 17 was when I cooked my first two-top. So two people, like a couple like you guys, came in, and let me tell you this, I felt bad for them because that was the first time I ever did it. You know, they kept. You know, think about they're going
fire or something.
No, well, no, but they're going out now. Luckily, no. I've only caught myself on fire. Thank the Lord. But you know, they're thinking, you know, hey, we're going out for this date night. Let's go to this nice hibachi restaurant. And next thing you know, they get the new white guy, brand new. First day, was like, oh shit. So yeah, 17 was when I cooked my first table.
Nice. And then I'm assuming you just fell in love with the industry, right? Like,
what I realized, you know, growing up, watching my dad, right? Like my dad would, and it's so funny because I realized all this kind of stuff later on. You know, when you're so young, your brain is so small, and you're kind of just going with the flow because your brain's not fully developed. But you know, we would go to the store, and my dad was always talking to people. Like, dude, it's to the point where I'm pulling on his shorts, like, come on, let's go. Whether it's the cashier at the gas station that we go to all the time, the Little Caesars pizza lady, the clerk at Albertsons, like just full on conversations. And so I definitely got gifted that, right? I definitely got gifted that. So truthfully, yes, I enjoyed the cooking. I enjoyed doing the show, the tricks, but I think what I really enjoyed was in the interaction with people, because you know, you guys know, everybody that knows what hibachi teppanyaki is, you know, we're not stuck in the back of the kitchen, we're cooking in front of people. So you know, I would say a mixture of the cooking, a mixture of the show, and a mixture of interaction with people is what I fell in love with.
Okay. And then after that, when was it that you came up with this idea for your business?
Yeah, so you know, as I was going, you know, every day and like, learning my craft and getting better, and people were starting to request me. So you can call up and say, hey, we want a reservation of 4 tonight. Can we get Zach to cook for us? Cool. Excuse me. Yeah, you got it. And then so I was starting to get 2 or 3 a night requests, right? 2 to 3 parties. And I remember like Christmases and Valentine's Day, it was just like 10 requests a night. Like it was crazy. And so, you know, people always, well, how I even got introduced to business was because of me talking to all the guests. And where I worked was in a nicer area. Are you guys familiar? You guys are familiar with Seven Hills and Southern Highlands? And yeah, so, you know, very wealthy area. And I would always see the guests come in. It's like a Tuesday, like 4. They're like throwing their Rolls Royce keys on the table, and like, "Hey kid, give me a sake." And I'm like, just so chill. And you know who I actually like who that was actually Brad Lee.
oh wow.
Yeah, so he was definitely one of them. And just so many other very wealthy people. And I would sit there and be like, "What do you guys do?" Right? Like what is it that you do? Like, how are you just so, you know, and they're going to hibachi like they're going to McDonald's, you know, like it's like they don't even care about the show. Brad would always be on his phone, wouldn't even like pay attention to anything I got going on. Make sure my steaks cook good. All right, you got it. Wouldn't even care, right? And so I'm just like, dude, like I always would tell myself, I want to be on that side of the grill, right? Like I want to get cooked for. And so, as I was asking them what they do, it was always, business. I own this. I have a businesses. I run real estate, but I have businesses. And so then I'm sitting there thinking of different businesses. And then a lot of them would try to poach me, right? Like, oh, Zach, you're good at talking. You should come. I have a timeshare company. Come sell timeshares. I also did like real cold calling for real estate wholesaling as well for somebody. And people were like, hey, come get your real estate license. And so I tried all these different things. And it just, I don't know. It was easy to give up, right? I was like, fuck this shit. I'm burnt out. I don't care. I'm working this job. Now I'm working this other little thing. But I started to realize that I didn't want to cook. It's weird. I had this weird thought in my head that I was like, I don't want to cook. These guys own real estate businesses. I want to do that. Or these guys own this. I want to do that. And then I watched the Gary Vee video. You guys know Gary Vee, of course, right? Mm-hmm. And he said, you need to double down on what you know. And I was like, oh man, I gotta cook more. I'm like,
oh yeah.
At this point, I'm cooking. I'm 22 years old, right? I've been cooking for 5 years, which sounds crazy at 22 years old, right? I'm burnt out a little bit. I'm like, this is, all the chefs that are coming in, they're alcoholics and drug addicts. I'm like, I don't, I'm starting to get a bad taste, right? And then he said, you just need to double down on what you know. And I was like, well, fuck, thanks, Gary Vee. Goddamn, fine, let me try it. And then so that's when I started. It was my first business called Backyard Hibachi.
Oh,
and I started that in 2019.
Okay.
So that was all that leading up to what made me want to start my first business.
So Backyard Hibachi is when you go to people's houses, right?
So no. So actually, yes, that's what you would think. No, Backyard Hibachi was actually what I was doing. What I do now, the to-go plates, just in my homie's backyard. So my homie, my friend, he was his mom. She owned businesses as well, so she had some money and she had this big backyard. And little did I know, she had this whole garage full of equipment and all this stuff. And so we started that. And then I'll get to how Hibachi House started. And we did that. I did that on my 2 days off. So I worked 5 days at the restaurant. I did the 2 days of Backyard Hibachi. And so we started getting followers. We got up to like 5,000 followers on the Instagram. It was cracking. But it got to a point where, it wasn't just our friends coming anymore, right? Like it wasn't just our friends coming to order food. Like now, real people are coming and customers from my restaurant are coming. And so, when my guy, so then my wheels are turning. My brain is starting to go. I'm like, oh my God, like I'm a businessman and I'm starting to work out and I get introduced to reading books and listening to affirmations and all this stuff that's just blowing my freaking mind, right? Like I've never been exposed to any of this before. So now when I go to work, instead of listening to rap music, I'm listening to freaking Eric Thomas and Tony Robbins. And these guys don't know. I just got my headphones plugged in. They have no clue what I'm listening to. But it's weird because I felt like a high. Like it gave me a high. I was like, I guess the right word is inspired. I was starting to get inspired. My brain was starting to open to this business world, and that's what I really started falling in love with. And unfortunately, right, I would try to get my friends up there with me to do the same kind of things. I started slowing down on drinking. I started smoking less weed. I would actually smoke the CBD instead of THC. Just because I noticed that like, fuck, I'm getting high. I can't wake up. I can't focus. I can't get my stuff done. And so, of course, just like all friends in the neighborhood do, they start talking shit. Oh, you smoking that shit. And oh, look at Zach working out. He's reading, fucking nerd. Yeah, and so it's just, it sucked, right? And then, I would have meetings and all this because I'm like, look, you guys, like, let's maybe not smoke a blunt while you're bagging this chicken plate, right? Like, that sounds funny, right? Like in a restaurant, you would never see someone smoking a cigarette while taking an order, But it was Backyard Hibachi, so it was cool. But I was just trying to get everybody on the same page, and I don't know what was going on in their minds, but to say long story short, we, parted ways. It didn't end up as good as I wished it was. These were like my best friends growing up.
Damn, it's rough.
Yeah, and so I actually went back to work. Like I said, I was working the whole time, but that stopped, and they actually were like, "Hey, screw this dude, Zach. We're gonna start this shit back up." fuck this dude, you know? And so they put on their real chefs are back in, starting backyard, hibachi back up, this and that. And I was really hurt, you know?
So they started doing the business again, but without you.
Correct.
Oh wow.
Yeah, correct. And, that was like the first time because I've always had friends, like these have always been my friends. I've never not had any. And, this was, my fiance
Recruit.
now,
Yeah.
she was there from the beginning, right? We started dating before I started this. And so, I just felt not that she wasn't always there for me, but just felt alone. It was the weirdest feeling. I've never had this kind of feeling before. Like, damn, these aren't my friends anymore. I don't have friends. I'm used to having my core 5 friends. And so that's how I actually started the first one. Long story short, I'll make it fast. Pandemic happened. Buddy was like, hey man, why don't, or we got our hours cut at the restaurant. And my buddy was like, man, why don't you start selling those plates again? And, for like a week, I just had that trauma of all the stuff that happened with my friends. And, I was like, I really didn't want to. And then I guess, kind of just talked myself into it. It was like, fuck it, or screw it. Excuse my language, but screw it. Let's do it, right? And I had this $5,000 credit card, and I just swiped everything, and I started the next day.
Nice.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's good.
That's a long story, very long story. But
wait, before we move on to the next part, right? So,
Yeah.
based on that experience, right, that you had with your partners,
Friends. Yeah.
So now how do you, I guess, like, how do you deal with partners today now, based on that experience?
so now,
Partnerships are tough, right?
yeah. So I've actually had, and this is gonna sound funny because it's not the most strategical answer, but I'm on my 3rd business partnership, right? I should have learned after the first one. I should have learned after the second one. My fiance was like, and when this 3rd guy came around, she's like, dude, bro, no, stop. Like, stop. You don't need business partners. And I was like, nah, this is the one, right? And thank the Lord, 3rd time's a charm. The business partner I have now is absolutely incredible, right? But how I was dealing with, like, let's say the second one, right? I knew we couldn't be friends. I just knew that because even I'd have conversations with my friends before and be like, hey, like, this isn't going to work, and we're not going to be able to blow this up because we're too much of friends. And it's I can't tell you guys things. You guys can't tell me things. It's not going to work. And they'd be like, yeah, we know what you mean. And then I'd hire some couple kids that worked at the restaurant with me, and they'd all feel some type of way. I'm like, look, I'm trying to build a business, right? And so then my second partner. So this is what I say, right? You need to know your roles, right? And you need to do them because you have somebody else counting on you. Perfect example. Some days my business partner now does 80% and I do 20%. Some days I do 120 and he's in Aruba chilling. Some days we do 50-50. But it's the fact that we know our roles and we're how do I explain this? We just know what we're supposed to do, and we don't be like, oh, well, we get a catering order. What, am I going to be mad because I had to go cook it and he didn't? No, that's not his role. We have a complaint online and a refund has to be processed. I'm not doing that. That's his role. But he knows that. I know that. And so I think if you can, and you can establish that as much as you want and can ahead of time. The problem is, we need people, right? Like we need people, and you can just, there are qualities in people that you can see ahead of time. But sometimes, they can say that they know their roles and then you get into it and they're lazy. So you kind of, it's just a lot of trial and error. But I say, as long as you guys know your roles, as long as you guys know what positions you play and you're willing to play them at the max potential every single day, I think that's the best way to go about it.
I love that.
It's tricky, right? It's very tricky. Partnerships are tricky. Money's involved, rules, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think it's like kind of like a marriage, right? It's like
Exactly.
everything at work, even if it is with a business partner, it's like you got to know your roles, just like in marriage. You got to know your role and how, you're going to do this with the family and I'm going to do this, So I think that's a great answer that you just explained. It's just knowing your roles and like, respecting each other, respecting your each roles, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree.
So, and then also with friends, like, how do you, I guess, deal with that, having that balance of like, do you still like, are you really choosy with your friends now as to say how you were back then?
Yeah, so I don't have friends, right? Like straight up. I'll just be honest. I don't have friends. And when I say, then let me explain on what I mean. You guys are my friends, right? Um, but when I lost those friends, right, I couldn't even imagine living without these friends, right? That's all I knew. Like, oh
Mhm.
my gosh, like I don't know what I could do or how I can make friends. These are the only five core guys I've known since kindergarten. Um, but it's funny because now some of my bestest friends are in the same stuff as I am, business. And now our conversations are different because before when we were talking shots and blunts, now we're talking businesses and margins.
Right.
And I love it. I love it. I'm so happy. And so it's hard for me to be friends with people. I know I came out straight out the gate saying I don't have friends. I have a lot of friends. They're just on the same mindset as me, right? They're when I'm here and my friends are down here, for me to be on their level, I got to come down, and I just can't do that. And it's going to be very hard because it took me years to get up to here, and even my wife, she has friends and their husbands have jobs, and it's hard for me to have conversations with them. Of course, I'm Zach. I talk my head off, but at the same time, I'm like, man, that was some work. He said he hates his boss because he's an asshole, and I'm over here like, yeah, me too.
We totally,
Oh yeah, for
understand.
sure.
Yeah,
We
I'm over here
totally
like,
understand.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
hard. It is hard. It's
yeah. We're
just
not
hard
taking
to,
offense
yeah,
on those
no.
people, right? It's just a
not at all.
different like mindset, right?
Yeah, it's just hard to relate because they're complaining about something, and
Relating.
like we have different complaints, right? Like we're
Oh yeah.
like complaining about clients, or I don't know, like different things, you know?
Complaining about them, the employees.
Yeah.
They'll say something, and I'm like, and they try to get me to agree, and I'm like, nah, I don't agree with that. Like, I'd be pissed if my employee did that. Like, sorry,
Yeah,
bro.
it's a different role. Yeah,
But
for
I
sure.
but I guess like for our viewers, let's say that they're barely getting into business and they're afraid, that's something they're afraid of. What would you tell them? Like, oh,
They're
I'm about to lose my friends. I'm about to lose people that I care about, but yet I really want to do business.
they were never your friends anyway. If they leave, because truly, the guys, they might have been my friends only when it benefited them. As soon as I started to think about myself more, because I realized that we only have one life, and I was trying to motivate my friends. I wasn't. I would go to work and I was elevating at work, and then I would come home and kick it in the backyard. And I would tell them stories of how work was and how I cooked for this dude and I cooked for that dude, and I'm about to be head chef. And okay, cool. You trying to roll up this blunt, right? And so, um, truthfully, like I said, it sucks that you might have to lose your friends. I always say try not to, right? Try not to. Don't ever. First of all, don't go into business with friends. I mean, don't do that. I'll tell you that for right now. Don't do that. But let's say you're going to go start a business and your friends still work jobs. It's truthfully up to your friend's mentality to accept the fact that you're going to do that, because you can't change their mind, right?
Yeah.
I always prayed and hoped that my friends would see what I was doing and be like, yeah, Zach, we're either rocking with you or I'm gonna start my own thing. Unfortunately, that didn't happen, and they faded away. And yes, I was very sad, but at the end of the day, now my bestest friends,
Yeah.
you guys, my other friends that are in the food industry with me, I would rather have these guys, you know.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, so I say don't let it get to you too much. Your friends only are around most of the time when it benefits them. And truthfully, you just have to realize that you have one life. You have one shot at life. And I'll be damned if in 30 years I was, I played it cool because I didn't want to hurt someone's feelings, and then I
Yeah.
regret not going
Yeah.
harder.
Yeah. It's a good
It's the
point.
same for
Having one
us,
life.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. What we noticed that once it's like kind of making rooms, like if you get rid of bad stuff and you make room for, and then new stuff comes in. So we were like, once we got rid of old friends that weren't really supporting us, we realized that new friends would come in, and it was like, oh my gosh, I never imagined I'd have a friend like this. It was crazy. It was like the minute we get rid of toxic friends, good positive friends would come in. It's like, oh, we had to make room for that. But before, we didn't have the capacity, we didn't have the room for it. So it's really crazy that it's like kind of the same story.
Yeah, it's rough though, right?
It is
It's
rough.
really tough,
It is
like
tough.
mentally.
Definitely.
Because you care about those people.
Yeah. We don't wish them harm. We wish them the best with all their, with everything. But I think it's just like for our mental health, it's good that we just can't be around that. We have to be
because then you start thinking about their problems. You know what I mean? Like, perfect example, I'll get on the phone with my buddy, and he owns a meal prep company, and he'll tell me about his problems, and I'll tell him about mine, and then we talk about solutions, and we talk about similar things, versus, most people that aren't in the elevating mindset and ready to boss up, I guess, they just talk about their problems. They don't care about your problems, and it's very draining. It's very draining, and that could happen with family members as well. That's the other issue, right? It's like they say, what is it? Blood is thicker than water, or whatever the term is. But I mean, I've, had conversations with my fiance about certain family members. I come from a very small family. I always wanted a big family, and hopefully, man, you can cut this out. I don't, whatever. Until I saw her family, the drama, and I'm like, oh no.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
I said no, man, and I said maybe not, right? But it's yeah. So don't be afraid to cut people off, because new people are out there that are ready to come in and bless your life. One story that I just share real quick is, I started going to the gym, and I shout my buddy Alvin out on every podcast I do. I did it on the last one because we didn't get into this, but he was more than a personal trainer to me. He started getting me to reading books and all this kind of stuff. And I was like, dude, who are you? And unfortunately, we don't talk as much as we used to right now, but he was definitely a person that, made me realize that there's more out there in the world, and so sometimes it just takes that one person that you come across, but you also have to be willing to change if you really want a difference in life.
Definitely.
Yeah, love it. So next question is, how did you deal with 2020? Because a lot of like brick and mortars, businesses, right, were crushed by COVID, right, in 2020. So
yeah. So how I dealt with 2020, that was actually the year I started my business. I started I started in March, but I actually got my LLC in June of 2020. So I officially started my business, according to the government, in June 2020. And I was busier then than I am now. For me, it was a blessing. I truthfully I feel for all business owners that dealt with, like you said, brick and mortar, because I supported local restaurants during the pandemic, and I remember I would show up, and you guys saw it. They were taking orders with a table right at the front door. Then you look in and you see this dining room that they're still paying for. They're still paying for that square footage, and I was like, I can't believe it. You can't put butts in seats, because we all know when someone's sitting in your restaurant, and that's another different concept about mine, because it's all takeout. You can't really upsell people, right? You can't be like, hey, would you like some appetizers? Hey, would you like some dessert? There's people that go there and go, I like these appetizers, this, all for takeout. But when you're in an environment, you want to spend more money and that kind of stuff. And the appetizers and the desserts in restaurants are the higher margin items normally. So that's usually
really
bottom line.
How about drinks?
And drinks, correct. And drinks. Yep, correct. And I mean, I know for a fact when I'm doing takeout, I'm like, I got water at the house, I'm good. But when you're in the restaurant, it's almost an 80% chance, 85% chance you're going to get a soda. Correct. So yes, drinks, desserts, and appetizers are very high margin. And so that made me, unfortunately, I was approached by somebody that had a food truck, and when I saw that model and I saw the low overhead, I was like, I kind of just want to stick with this. I don't want any seats. I don't want anything like that. I don't want to pay for that if, God forbid, another pandemic happened. And like I said, unfortunately, those business owners nobody knew that was going to happen. right?
Yeah.
Nobody knew. I mean, I feel bad for the ones that started right before. You know, that's the worst. But for me, you know, I had one of the most popular food trucks in the pandemic in 2020. Yeah.
Oh,
Nice.
wow.
So you had a food truck, right? Is that?
Yes, yes, I had a food truck, and so we parked it in the parking lot, and it was. You forget COVID even existed. There were so many
Yeah.
people.
Yeah, because makes sense because it was outside. People were
It's
trying to get
outside.
out. You know what I mean? People
I
were
just
trying to
talked
look for
about
food
this.
still.
We're always
Yeah,
looking for food.
correct. I just
People
talked
were looking
about
for what's the word?
experience.
Yeah, experience, entertainment.
Entertainment, correct. And I was just talking about this earlier with somebody. Yet the first 2 months of the pandemic were weird, right? But then once everybody kind of got over the fear and the mask thing was a little more normal, then that's when people definitely started coming out. But I actually opened my food truck, I think October, yeah, right after the summertime because I did the whole
Mm.
summer in my mom's backyard.
Oh wow. Okay.
Yeah,
And I remember Vegas at that time was like dead.
weird.
Weird, right? So weird.
Yeah.
But yeah, we were still going out and getting food.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I wish we would have known about Zach's at that time.
You would have came. Okay. This is how it would have been. You would have pulled. You would have hit me up on Instagram. I would have sent you a random address. You would have pulled up, hopped in line with all these other cars that were out front of my mom's house, and picked up food in the backyard. You would have been like, "This is the weirdest thing ever," but it's kind of cool.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I love
So-
it.
I guess like more details about owning a restaurant. Like, what do you need to do? I heard it's really hard, right, to get permits and like paperwork.
Licenses.
Mhm.
I guess walk someone through it if they were thinking of wanting to own a restaurant
Or like any like food business
or
here in
any
Vegas.
food business. Yeah.
So if you want to do so I always say that people should test out before they do anything with permits and licenses and all that. You should test your concept out first. Yes, I don't want to tell anybody to do anything illegal, but when it comes to food businesses, they're very expensive, right? And so I always say, you might say my grandma has the best, banana pudding recipe ever, but I don't say you go spend 150 grand on a restaurant and then just open up and be like, hey, here's my banana pudding recipe. No, I don't. I highly do not recommend that. I recommend you starting out selling from social media, making it at your house, right? Inviting friends over to try it for free, going out and giving it away for free before you even think of spending money on licenses and permits. But a cool thing that is super popular as well. So once say you start building up some clientele or you start building that up, there's these things out here called commissaries, commercial kitchens, where they're shared kitchens, super low barrier to entry. You just pay a monthly fee. They have everything already: refrigerators, the hoods, the sinks, freezers, racks to store your stuff, and those are about $480 a month starting out. You get 40 hours. You get a refrigerator rack, a freezer rack, a dry storage rack, and you get 40 hours to use the kitchen. And you share that with other companies. So I say to do that. And what you're going to need is they also help you get your health permit. So you get your business license, then you get your health permit, and then in Las Vegas, and I say Las Vegas as a whole, like Henderson, Summerlin, all those in North Las Vegas, you have to get your city permit as well. I don't know if you guys have to do that for your guys' business.
Yeah, or LLC or S corp. Yeah.
So you get your S corp, but you also for food businesses. So depending on where you're at, you might need your city license. So you're going to need a North Las Vegas license or a Henderson license or a Clark County license or a North Las Vegas. Did I say that? Or North Las Vegas license. So you're going to get those three things first. So it's business license, city license, health permit, and then you're ready to go.
Oh,
Nice.
wow. Okay.
And then how much are overhead for food trucks usually?
So food trucks range, you have your two different options, right? You have your trailers or your trucks. Trailers are definitely more inexpensive because they don't have an engine hooked to it. Yes, you do have to go get a truck yourself to pull it. But the cool part, and like my truck didn't actually drive. That was the issue with my truck. It didn't drive. The engine was messed up, so I couldn't just go rent a truck and pick it up and take it. It was stuck where it was. Anyway, so trailers range anywhere from, and I'm talking like if you want to buy one custom built, 30,000 to 60,000, and then trucks go anywhere from about 40, 50, all the way up to 200,000.
Oh wow,
That's okay.
that's cool.
And then for the audience, like, what are you doing now? So
So
2020
you
came,
did
food
the
truck.
food truck, and then what did you? How are you still doing the food truck at all?
No, no. So that food truck was with my second business partner, and our business partnership was that he just maintains the truck. I make sure that business gets pumped out of it, and we just did a profit split. Fortunately, I mean, I was making the guy. Fortunately, I was making the guy a lot of money. Unfortunately, he just did not keep up on his end of the bargain. So I gave the truck back to him, and I was like, "Yo, bro, I can't," because the health department, they were on me. They're like, "Hey, dude, your truck needs to drive. You need to be able to go to your kitchen to dump your water." And I said every lie in the book. Oh, we do it at 10 o'clock at night. Then they came. We drove at 10 o'clock. It was still here. Oh no, we do it at 2 a.m. And so it just got to the point where, I was like, hey, man, if you're not going to fix this, we can't do business. And yeah, I'll fix it. Gave it back to him. Didn't end up fixing it. So that's when I got in this new business partnership with the guy that helped me build the restaurant. And so right now, no food truck right now, just the brick and mortar, all takeout only, no seating. But I've got some plans in motion that we might be seeing some more trailers and trucks out.
Nice.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Ooh.
and now you're also doing like catering too, right? Catering and
Yeah. So
also like
last,
live
yes.
hibachi shows too, right? Mm-hmm.
Yep. Oh no. Did I lose you guys?
No,
No, we're here.
we're here.
Sorry, my brother just called me. There we go.
It's
Your
okay.
brother called me to mess me up. So last year I was super focused on making sure my restaurant was up and running, making sure it could. Oh my gosh, getting a million calls.
Don't worry.
All right, cool. I was making sure my restaurant was up and running, making sure that everything was streamlined, and I can work. Um, the business isn't work. What's the saying? I work on the business. The business isn't working for me. I forget the saying, but basically I don't
Yeah.
have to be there as much. And so this year, yes, we're focused on our caterings, we're focused on our platters, and we're focused on our backyard hibachi private party experiences as well.
Yeah, those look cool. You even did it for like the Raiders guy, right?
I've
Derek.
done a few of them. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, that's
yeah.
so
And
cool.
you know Pastor Benny too, right?
Yeah,
Oh
Pastor
yeah,
Benny.
good friend of mine. Yeah, I saw his
Oh,
kids the other day at Ross J's. You guys familiar? Have you ever been there? Ross J's,
no.
Hog Grill. It's like a little hole in the wall spot, super popular. I saw him the other day.
Oh,
Oh,
nice.
nice. Oh, that's so cool. I love that. And it's just going up and up. Like it's so awesome to see like you're coming up with new ideas that I haven't seen other people come up with. So that's pretty cool to see.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I have to stay innovative. I mean, the amount of restaurants there are in Las Vegas is insane, right? It's a very saturated market. So I have to do things to stand out. I have to do things to be different. And, you know, uh, luckily social media has definitely helped with that.
Yeah, but
Um,
you're putting yourself out there too. Like I see you on all these podcasts. You're going to different people's. You're really building your brand, which is really good because
Yeah.
it
Let's talk
it's
about that actually.
yeah. Let's talk about that
Like,
real
what's the
fast.
importance of, like building a brand if you're in the restaurant business?
Or just
yeah,
being
so
a business owner.
yeah. So I think the importance of building a brand is, building the community that believes in what you're doing, you know, especially when it comes to restaurant owners. Um, a lot of them kind of just hide behind the camera. They're just chefs in the back of the kitchen. And you don't really know who they are unless there's. I mean, and then you look at the greats like Gordon Ramsay and Guy Fieri and Bobby Flay, and I want to be where they're at one day. So I kind of just want to follow their model. Back then it was TV shows. They had to get on TV shows to get this notoriety. Now there's social media. Every day is a TV show. All my stories and my posts are TV shows. But the importance of it is just I think if the more I can build my brand, the more I can put my story out there, the more I can put my vision, people believe in it, people want to follow it. And I truly believe right now I'm just trying to build my personal brand as big as possible. The Vanilla Rice brand, Zach Tolen, just because of the fact that, it's so funny because I go to these networking events, right? And I'm like the only one at these events that own a restaurant. I don't never met a lot that own restaurants, and so people, it's different. You know, they gravitate towards it, and so I think that it's very important because I don't know. You know, it's so funny, right? I could sit here and give you guys an answer. It's all I know. I don't know how else not to do it. I don't know how to not do it. It just comes natural, I guess. This is all I know. I mean, even from being at the restaurant, I started my Instagram when I used to work at the restaurant. I started it then, and to see what I'm into now is just incredible. And I just always know where attention goes, money goes. So I'm trying to build this as big as possible. I want Vanilla Rice's Hibachi House, Zach Tolen to be the next like household name in foods.
That's
Love
awesome.
it.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah. And then how do you deal with the ups and downs, bro, of your business and also personal life?
Yeah.
Oh man, how do I deal with the ups and downs? I used to get really stressed. And I'd see like a bad night in numbers on the restaurant, and nobody could talk to me. I'm ready to snap in an instant. And then it's so funny because then when numbers are doing good, I'm the complete opposite. I'm happy, and that's how like my wife would even be like, "Oh, the restaurant not doing too good tonight. How'd you know?" Like, "Oh, you just snapped at me." I'm like, "Oh my gosh." And so it's so funny too because I feel like I was at one point, I was when something bad would happen, I'd feel like a pain in my chest. Like truthfully, like I feel like this pain in my chest because it's my blood pressure going up, and it's my I always say my blood boiling, and my steam's about to come out of my ears, But I realized that that's not healthy either. And if you truly wake up every day and do what you're supposed to do on this earth, whether good or bad happens, it's always good. Right. And that took me a few years to realize that, to learn that, to realize that not all the bad days are bad. You have to have bad days to have good days, or the good days wouldn't matter. And so now I just kind of, I've gotten a little more spiritual, right? I pray. Do I know who I'm praying to? No, I just, it's something I've never done before. So I'm like, let's try it out. And now I just say, hey, God, Dad, whoever I'm talking to, I know that you're going to bless me, and I know that you're going to put me on the right path. And no matter what's going on right now, you're going to make it right. And I'm just appreciative. So I just wake up every day with gratitude.
That's good, bro. I gave up too, man.
Yeah.
I just pray these days, bro. I was like, oh my gosh, there's like 100 problems in front of me. I'm just gonna pray about it.
Yeah.
I can control it, I can just try my best, right?
And that's what it is. Whether there's really a God, whether there's really somebody up there, who knows? But it's something that you can, and not only to give your problems to, but just let that problems be in somebody else's hands, or the universe, or and I'll be honest, ever since I started, thinking like that, things have been coming out a lot better than when I would just be super stressed. You can't stop thinking about the stress because we can't change bad things, right? We can only learn from them and try to prevent them later, So as long as entrepreneurship's all about the ups and the downs, you just know that once you're down, what's next.
Up. Roller coaster.
Yeah.
So how do you balance it with family life, like owning a business and having a family?
I said this at my speech that I did. I said I buy a lot of flowers.
Oh.
I got a flower subscription because it's hard. It's definitely something that I still work on every day, right? To be there for my wife and my daughter. And I don't know if you guys deal with this as well, but it's just sometimes you're there with them physically, but mentally you're completely not. And I mean, it's only, let's say it's been 4 or 5 years almost in business, so I've definitely learned a lot how to cope with things. When it comes to my daughter, and only 1 year, so I'm still learning, And so how I deal with it right now is I just try to put my phone in another room right now. That's what things I've been working on. I just try to, instead of going downstairs with my daughter during the day and have my phone with me, I'll keep my phone upstairs. I mean, it's 6 a.m. I don't need to check it.
Call you, right?
Yeah.
Trust me, I sit there before and would be like, someone's gonna call me. I just with this thing right here, you know. So that's one thing right now that I'm trying to work on is, you know, keep my phone in a different room. And then I'll go check it, you know, be like, hey, I'll be right back. Go check it real quick, make sure, okay, good. Go back down instead of aimlessly being on it, waiting for a problem to come. And then yeah, it's hard to turn my phone off because you know, you never know what's gonna happen. But I'm working on that stuff as well. You know, it's a lot of stuff on the phone, you know, that I'm trying to.
No, it is hard to disconnect, especially from the phone, especially when you're like in social media and you're just a business owner. You want to talk to people and constantly work. I feel like we're just always on constant work mode. So like when it comes to our kids, like we have to learn how to turn it off and be present. So that's awesome that you can leave your phone. Maybe you should try that.
I mean, hey,
bro, this thing is.
No, the way I get Lewis off the phone is I gotta take him to like somewhere where there's no reception.
Yeah. And hey, I bet Lewis is still like trying to get reception. He's like, no, I got this text. It almost sent.
or we go play basketball. So lately, what we've been doing is we go play basketball with the kids. That he can't have his phone because he's doing something, you know, and he's enjoying it because he's playing basketball. So yeah,
no, that's cool.
Gotta find ways, you know, little ways.
That thing is addicting. I don't care what anybody says. I'm addicted. I check it when I wake up, which they say you're not supposed to. I'm on it 30 minutes before I go to bed. They say you're not supposed to. It's bad, you know. But I think with any type of issue or problem, you know, as long as you know that it's there and you try to work on it, you know, that's the best you can do. You know?
Yeah.
Definitely agree.
Yeah, you're so mature, bro. 26, right? 26,
27?
27.
27.
Yeah.
Wow.
I think it's because of your trauma, right? I think, well, like, would you say
it's
it's
a big part of
like going through like trauma?
Well, what it was, I think, for me was, having to grow up fast because my dad passed away, and then also, you know, I mean, 4 of my employees are anywhere from 8 to 20 to 30 years older than me. And that was the same when I became head chef at 19. The guys that were working under me did it longer than I was alive. And so I had to learn how to speak to different people with different ages and how to have respect at the same time, but also get respect. And, you know, I mean, yeah, I can go in there and I'm the 27-year-old young kid, or I can go in there and no, I command respect and I do the work as well. So that also gets me the respect. And I mean, I just had my 65-year-old employee, Robert. I had a great conversation with the whole team and he quit his job the next day. He was like, nah, Zach, I'm going with you full time. Yeah. Don't get me wrong. You know, he's 65, so he gets money from Social Security and all those kind of things. But he had a full-time job at a casino, and he was like, nah. He was like, I'm good. He's like, I see where you're going. And the conversation I had, it's just, you know, like I said, I've just worked with different age groups of people, all different personalities. And, you know, they say you're supposed to treat everybody the same. No way. No way.
That's number 2.
I have a 17-year-old employee and a 65-year-old employee. You think I'm going to treat them the same?
Right.
No way. But it took me, like you were saying, you know, maturity, you know, going up in maturity and just working with a whole bunch of different age groups and people that, you know, I had to learn how to talk to people.
Wow.
Yeah, speaking of employees, like how do you deal with employees?
Yeah, like you deal with them all different ways, you know. Like I said, you know, the 17-year-old kid, don't get me wrong, you know, I give him a lot more leeway than I do a 35-year-old, right? Or a 40-year-old, you know, because it's like when I was 17, I was a jackass, you know. And truthfully, this kid's way better than me when I was 17. So I'm like, you know, yes, he does stupid stuff every once in a while, but you have to remember he's 17. It's when the 35-year-olds or 40-year-olds act like they're 17. That's when I'm like, dude, what are you doing, bro? Like, I just hold, you know, yes, and some people might take this one way. Some people might, well, you know, oh, it's your leadership, and you need to teach this and that. But his brain's not fully developed enough to think like this 35-year-old man or this 40-year-old man or 60-year-old man, you know. So with him, it's more of a yes, I will, you know, reprimand in a calm demeanor. I don't ever yell or anything like that, but it's more of in a teaching way. It's more of in a role model way. Versus, bro, you're 35. Yeah, if you look at me as a role model, cool, but that's not the way I'm talking to you, bro. You should definitely know what the fuck you're doing, bro. I don't what the hell is going on. So it's more about, I'll bring the younger kid in the room in the office and be like, hey, so this and that, and I just want to let you know, and you're doing great with this, but this is what we need to work on. The other older guys, I'm like, yo, what are you doing? What are you doing? What's going on?
Yeah.
Yeah. So how do you exactly like deal with it though with the older people? Like, do you get like confrontational? Like,
yeah. So I always start with all the good things that they're doing, right? Because at the end of the day, you want your employees to always be happy, right? And if I'm the asshole that's always just telling them everything they're doing wrong, they're gonna be like, bro, this guy's an asshole. He didn't even see the 10 things I did right. So I always start with everything that they're doing right. Like, I'm appreciative of you showing up every day on time. Well, you've been my top guy for this past X amount of stuff. But you have been late these past 2 weeks, and this is definitely something that we need to work on. There's other employees here that see the same thing, and if I give you the leeway, what do you think they're going to do? And so I also ask questions for them to answer as well. Right, I ask them questions for them to answer it. So when they're saying it, they're definitely going to believe it.
Yeah.
It's hard. It's not always easy to believe what somebody else is saying, or some guy that's kind of reprimanding you. It's like, but if I ask them a question and then they go, "Yeah, you're right. I am like that."
Wow.
I didn't say that. You did.
That's great leadership, though. Seriously.
yeah, it's tough.
It is tough. It is very tough.
Tell me about it. I know.
So you say you have 2 employees right now? How many?
I have 5.
Oh, you have 5. Okay. Yeah. And they're all different ages.
Yeah, they range anywhere from 17 to 65.
Wow, yeah. Zach, that's awesome. Wow.
At one point, at the peak of my food truck, I think I had 12, and that was the same.
Okay.
I think my youngest employee was 18, and my oldest one was 58. Yeah, okay. And everything.
You have any more questions?
Love it. I think we're good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess before we end, bro, like, what's your message for any like young entrepreneur? Like looking to start like a food business or any business in general.
Yeah, I said this at the last thing too. I truly really believe in this. It's basically just start, right? If you have an idea, a lot of us think about ideas too much and we don't actually execute. I'm all about executing and figuring it out later, because you could sit and when you're younger, like you said young entrepreneur. So when you're young, you have time, right? You have time to make mistakes. I've made so many mistakes, and I'm so glad I did now, because by the time I'm 30, which just sounds crazy because it's in 3 years. Crazy to even think about.
30s are gonna be your golden years.
I know, but just the word, I've never even said the word anyway. But when I had the self-realization and started to have self-realization thoughts, right? Like knowing that I'm here on this chair at this time talking to you guys, and I'm realizing what's coming out of my mouth, right? And I realized that, time is going to pass whether you do something or not. So you might as well do something. You might as well try and fail instead of not start at all. Because you'll be so much further in 3 years if you started today and failed in those 3 years than if you start in those 3 years, because now you're going to fail in those next 3 years. And then I realized that when I was 18, I said, by the time I'm 21, I'm going to be a millionaire. And guess what I was doing when I was 21? I had the same 40 ounce in my hand and the same blunt in the other one, doing the same shit. I was like, whoa, that's crazy. And that's when it started. That's when I was like, holy shit, like I can't let another 3 years go by and not do anything. So then from 21 to 24 is when I started my business. And so, once you realize that the earth is going to revolve, whether you like it or not, you need to just start, figure it out later. I always say, people say that they'll believe it when they see it. I believe that when I see it. I see it before I believe it. I see it. Wait, my bad. I believe it. Sorry, hold on.
You see it before you believe it.
Yes, I see. Correct. Sorry. I believe it when I see it. I see it before I believe it. Correct. Yes. because it's like, if I don't start now, if I don't execute now, if I don't see the end goal, the light at the tunnel, I'll be scared to start. You just got to be confident. You got to start. Don't wait. Start now.
Love it,
I
bro.
love it.
Yeah, thanks for being here, bro.
Thank you so much.
How can people follow you, by the way?
Thank you guys for having me. I know I talk a lot, but I
I know
appreciate
you
it.
good. No, I'm asking like how can people follow you?
So
How
you can follow
you?
you can follow me on my journey is real vanilla rice _ on Instagram, and then my restaurant page is Hibachi House Hibachi House LV _ shoot me a follow on there. If you're an entrepreneur in the food space, you have questions, feel free to hit me up. As well as just basic business things like you were saying earlier, employees and licenses or business licenses. I know the basics, so all that kind of stuff as well. So
Awesome,
Bro.
Thank you so much.
Hell yeah.
Awesome.
That was great.
Hold on.